The book of Ephesians, 5th chapter, 15th verse. See then that you walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise, redeeming the time, because the days are evil. Wherefore be ye not unwise, but understanding what the will of the Lord is. Barakatha Yahweh, Barakatha Yahweh Shai. Barakatha Yahweh, Barakatha Yahweh Shai. All honor, praises, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rekar Kadash. Double honors to the apostles, elders, and teachers at Great Millstone for teaching me this 100% truth about our Lord and Savior, Yahweh Shai Mashiach, and the true reason why he's coming back, which is to save the elect remnant of the house of Israel from their enemies and those that hate them, and to take over the earth and universe, which was given to him by the mighty Yahweh himself, the Ancient of Days, wherein our Lord and Savior, Yahweh Shai Mashiach, will establish righteousness throughout the whole earth and universe forever under the kingdom of the heaven of the Israelites. Shalom Akimenakwaf. We one day closer to the kingdom. Back at you with a quick lesson on the recent developments since that attempted assassination took place in Qatar. The Arab nations have united. They had a meeting today condemning the actions of the maniacs, the fraudulent ones, the counterfeiters. You know what I'm talking about. The ones you can't talk about, or else you're going to be deemed an enemy of the state. Let's get one more. Salakia. Salakia. I just had it up too. Here it is. 1 Thessalonians. We'll start at 2. 1 Thessalonians 5 and 2. For you yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so cometh as a thief in the night. For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. Now, we all know that the recent actions of Babylon the Great, aka America, the Arab nations are getting hip to them. You set up fake negotiating meetings between Iran and them Israelis, and then y'all allow them Israelis to attack Iran. You set up the leaders of Hezbollah by saying you was going to have a meeting in southern Lebanon, and you bombed it, a community. You just bombed Qatar because the U.S. set up negotiating meetings with Hamas. So they left Turkey and went to Qatar, and guess what happened? They tried to get them, but they failed. But with that foil plan, this united the Arab nations, which brings us, Salakia, to Obadiah. 1, this is for the whole house of Esau Edom, whether it be Edomites in America, the Edomites that's over in our homeland, right? The Edomites in what is so-called Europe, from Germany to France, to Great Britain, Spain, Portugal. Edom will be humble. The vision of Obadiah, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, the Most High Power, concerning Edom. We have heard a rumor from Yahweh, and an ambassador is sent among the heathen. Arise ye, and let us rise up against her in battle. Right? Behold, I have made thee small among the heathen. Thou art greatly despised. Who is that? Who is being greatly despised right now around the earth? Them Israelis. And guess who ain't too far behind? Babylon the Great. The pride of thine heart have deceived thee, thou that dwellest in the cliffs of the rock, whose habitation is high, that saith in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground? The Almighty Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai. Right? That's why I read. Let's go back to Ephesians, 5th chapter. Ephesians 5:17, wherefore be ye not unwise, but understanding what the will of the Lord is. And what is one of his wills? Shalakia. This is the will of the Lord. The nations will be judged. We keep bringing this out because it's future prophecy. I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, which is the modern day so-called Middle East, and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage, Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and part of my land. Right? That's what's coming. This is the will of the Lord. Let's get something else. Because these Arab nations just had a meeting, and they saying right now, hey, man, y'all make one more move where y'all assassinate somebody on sovereign soil, and that's y'all ass. Shalaki. Hold on. Might be Isaiah 34. Shalaki. Yeah. The Most High Power's wrath against nations. Here it is. I thought at verse 2, Isaiah 34:2. For the indignation of Yahweh is upon all nations, and his fury upon all their armies. He hath utterly destroyed them. He hath delivered them to the slaughter. Right? This is going to be for you Edomites and all the other enemies of the house of Israel. Let's get down to the point. Verse 5, future prophecy. For my Isaiah 34:5. For my sword shall be bathed in heaven. Behold, it shall come down upon Idumea and upon the people of my curse to judgment. What's going on right now? All around the world, the heathen nations are waking up to the fact that the sons of perdition have been revealed. The so-called modern day white man. They are lawless. The rules, international rules, don't apply to them. Right? They just bond a sovereign nation. So now, the Arab nations that are around about them are saying, one more move like that, and we're going to all come against your ass. Salaki. These other nations are realizing that the cancer around the world are these Edomites. Right? So now you got the little incident that happened over here in America, which is causing DJ to puff even more of his enemies. And now you got a fallout in the Christian church because they want everybody to recognize this self-professed racist, right? It's a difference between the white, so-called white Christians equals white supremacy. But they got the so-called African-American Christians questioning themselves. I just saw a clip from Arrows of Indignation. The one lady walked out of church because the preacher told her to support and honor the man that was slain, who didn't care about nobody but his race, right? This is what the Lord's will is. Isaiah 34:5. For my sword shall be bathed in heaven. Behold, it shall come down upon Idumea and upon the people of my curse to judgment, right? This is what's going to happen over here in America. Verse 6, the sword of Yahweh is filled with blood. It is made fat with fatness, and with the blood of lambs and goats, with the fat of kidneys of rams. For Yahweh hath a sacrifice in Basra, and a great slaughter in the land of Idumea. So it's not going to turn out well for these so-called modern-day white people all around the world, because everybody is hip to their playbook now. Right? Now, they said that Shalaki Israel. Every time I'm doing a lesson, I get 50 calls. Now, they supposed to have the Abraham Accords that they reached, that them Israelis reached with a certain Arab nations like UAE, Saudi Arabia. But they realizing now that if you finna go around and bomb, try to eliminate so-called Hamas leaders that's in other countries, you putting they people at risk, they citizens at risk, right? Psalms 55:20. He hath put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him. He hath broken his covenant. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, were they drawn swords. Salaki, I read that again. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords. Everybody hip to this playbook, right? You got wars going on because of what? The Greater Israel Project. You are not going to fulfill that. Let's get something. So they got so many things. These Edomites got so much going on that they can't even control themselves, right? Job 20:12. Though wickedness be sweet in his mouth, though he hide it under his tongue, though he spare it and forsake it not, but keep it still within his mouth, yet his meat in his bowels is turned. It is gall of asps within him. He hath swallowed down riches, and he shall vomit them up again. The Most High Power shall cast them out of his belly. All they want to do is take over. They covered fields, right? They trying to further what they inner thought is what? That they house themselves go on forever. They want to expand with the Greater Israel Project. They said it's not going to pop off because the Lord ain't going to allow it, right? I do 18. Job 20:18. That which he labored for shall he restore. Everything he took, you're going to have to give it back. And shall not swallow it down. According to his substance shall the restitution be. And he shall not rejoice therein. Because he hath oppressed and hath forsaken the poor. Because he hath violently taken away an house which he builded not. They're over there right now, taking over the occupied West Bank. They done killed 1,000 Palestinians in occupied West Bank since October 2023. Even with them having that little meeting of all the Arab nations today, they still managed to kill, them Israelis managed to kill 51 people in the Gaza Strip. Because he hath oppressed and hath forsaken the poor, because he hath violently taken away an house which he builded not. They did it to us, right? So it's going to come back on them. Surely he shall not feel quietness in his belly. He shall not save of that which he desired. Here go the point, verse 22. In the fullness of his sufficiency, he shall be in straits. Every hand of the wicked shall come upon him. That's all the laborers. That's worldwide. You got protests going on right now in France, England. You got semi-protests going on over here. That's why DJ want his own paramilitary force in Washington so they can quell any kind of dissent. They gradually taking away the laws from over here. Isaiah 19 is in full effect. A cruel king shall be, I get it. When he is about to fill his belly, the Most High Power shall cast the fury of his wrath upon him and shall rain it upon him while he is eating. Right? He shall flee from the iron weapon, and the bow of steel shall strike him through. Because all these nations finna come at who? America and them Israelis. It is drawn and cometh out of the body. They talking them ICBMs. Yeah. The glittering sword cometh out of his gall. Terrors are upon him. Right? That's why I just read Isaiah 34. This was coming to this land. Isaiah 34:6, the sword of Yahweh is filled with blood. It is made fat with fatness, and with the blood of lambs and goats, with the fat of kidneys of rams. For Yahweh hath the sacrifice in Basra, that was the main city, and they main spot, which is modern day Jordan, right? And a great slaughter in the land of Idumea. Let's see what Idumea is. We keep bringing this out. So there cannot be salvation for all the nations, because Edom, look at that.
Strong's H123, Edom.
Edom. Edomite, Idumean, descendants of Esau, land of Edom, Idumea, land south and southeast of Palestine, which is modern day Jordan. That's what's coming for you boys, right? There you go, the point right here. That's why my channel was named this. Isaiah 34:8. For it is the day of Yahweh's vengeance, in the year of recompenses for the controversy of Zion. All these nations that hated us, the Lord finna deal with them, right? Let me get this. Isaiah 38 is in full effect. Shalaki Israel. Let me get my disclaimer out the way. Here it is. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowances made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing nonprofit, educational, or personal use. Tips to balance in favor of fair use. So, as we all know, the nations, especially these Arab nations, they realizing that the international laws don't apply to who? Babylon the Great, aka America, or the unrecognized state of Israel. Because they do what they want to do. Right? That's why we keep bringing this out. 2 Ezra 15, 28, 29, 30, 31. It's in full effect. They just had a meeting with the nations of the dragons of Arabia, verse 29. I'll read 28 first, right? But, yeah, we go 28 first. Behold, in horrible vision and an appearance thereof from the east, where the nations of the dragons of Arabia shall come out with many chariots, and the multitude of them shall be carried as the wind upon earth, that all they which hear them may fear and tremble. Also the Carmanians, that's the Iranians, they just said they're going to supply Qatar with some hypersonic missiles. Raging in wrath shall go forth as the wild boars of the wood, and with great power shall they come and join battle with them, and shall waste a portion of the land of the Assyrians. And then shall the dragons have the upper hand, remembering their nature, and if they shall turn themselves conspiring together in great power to persecute them. Let's go back. Obadiah 1. In 3, the pride of thine heart hath deceived thee, thou that dwellest in the cliffs of the rock, whose habitation is high, that saith in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground? The Almighty Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. Though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, and though thou set thy nest among the stars, thence will I bring thee down, saith Yahweh. Right? Let's drop down to verse 6. How are the things of Esau searched out? How are his hidden things sought up? All the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. There is none understanding in him. Now, it's been reported that America pays Egypt $4 billion a year not to get on them Israelis' head. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. Now Egypt saying, Sinai is ours. They sending troops to the border, right? Shall I not in that day, saith Yahweh, even destroy the wise men out of Edom and understanding out of the mount of Esau? Everybody around the world, all the nations know that you are not guilty. You are not in trouble as other men. Psalm 73rd chapter, right? Let me drop down. Look at that. For thy violence, verse 10, for thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever. The Lord finna eliminate these Edomites. He finna bring them down to the dust. What does it say? Sit down in the dust, O daughter of Babylon. Right? The day of Yahweh and the future. Future prophecy. For the day of Yahweh is near upon all the heathen. As thou hast done, it shall be done unto thee. Thy reward shall return upon thine own head. Now, they go around assassinating people. Remember, they put them bombs in them pages. They are the true terrorists. Now, let's look at these. Let's play this podcast, because you're going to have the speaker from Egypt, the leader of Egypt talking, and the leader of Pakistan. And you know, Pakistan, they got them ICBMs. Let's get this ended on this, since y'all don't think it's finna come true. Revelation 11 and 14. The second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. The point, this is the will of the Lord. I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage, Israel, for the controversy of Zion, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land. Let's go back. Shalaki. We'll end it on this. Ephesians, the 5th chapter. Israel, this is for the elect that's been paying attention. See then, Ephesians 5 and 15. See then that ye walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise, redeeming the time, because the days are evil, meaning bad. The devil knoweth that he hath but a short time. That's why he walk around seeking whom he may devour. Wherefore, be ye not unwise, but understanding what the will of the Lord is. And we just read what his will is, huh? Guess what, Israel? We one day closer to the kingdom. Joel 3 and 2. That's what it is. Now let's check this out. The nations are angry. Behold, Obadiah 1 and 2. Behold, I have made thee small among the heathen. Thou art greatly despised. And like I read in Jeremiah 49, the least of the flock, these Israelis, they finna bring Babylon the Great to its destruction. You're going to draw them out. World War III going to hit. And this land finna be destroyed. Because Yahweh said so. Guess what, Israel? We one day closer to the kingdom. Be on point.
For hosting this important summit, my brother, His Highness Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, and to the brotherly state of Qatar for hosting this important summit, which is being held at a highly sensitive time and amid grave challenges facing the region, challenges that Israel seeks to turn into an open arena for aggression, which threatens the stability of the entire region and constitutes a serious breach of international peace and security, as well as the established rules of the international order. I would also like to convey to the leadership and people of Qatar Egypt's full solidarity and unity with its brothers in confronting the heinous Israeli aggression that has taken place in Qatari airspace and territory, which represents a grave violation of the provisions of international law and the Charter of the United Nations. It constitutes an extremely dangerous precedent and is indeed a threat to Arab and Islamic national security. Let me clearly and unequivocally emphasize here that this aggression clearly demonstrates that Israeli practices have exceeded all political or military logic and have crossed every red line. We express our condemnation in the strongest and most unequivocal terms of this Israeli aggression against the sovereignty and security of an Arab state that plays a pivotal role in mediation efforts with Egypt and the United States to achieve a ceasefire in Gaza and to end the war and the unprecedented suffering endured by the brotherly Palestinian people. I also warn that the reckless and destabilizing Israeli behavior we are witnessing could expand the scope of the conflict and push the region into a dangerous spiral of escalation, which is something that cannot be accepted or ignored. Your Majesties, Excellencies, and Highnesses, while Egypt calls on the international community to shoulder its moral and legal responsibility to ensure that these assaults are not repeated and to end the brutal Israeli war, which necessarily requires holding those responsible for previous violations accountable and putting an end to the prevailing impunity in the face of Israeli practices. It has become clear that the aggressive approach adopted by the Israeli side carries with it a deliberate intention to thwart all opportunities to achieve de-escalation and to reach an agreement that guarantees a permanent ceasefire and the release of hostages and prisoners. This approach also indicates a complete lack of political will on Israel's part to seriously move toward establishing peace in the region. The unchecked Israeli recklessness and ever-growing arrogance require us, as leaders of the Arab and Islamic worlds, to work together to establish foundations and principles that reflect our shared vision and common interests. Perhaps the adoption by the Arab League Council in its most recent ministerial session of the resolution entitled "The Shared Vision for Security and Cooperation in the Region" represents a nucleus upon which we can build to achieve Arab and Islamic consensus on a governing framework for regional security and cooperation, and to establish the necessary executive mechanisms for cooperation in light of the sensitive circumstances we are experiencing, in a way that prevents any party from achieving regional dominance, or by imposing unilateral security arrangements that undermine the security and stability of Arab and Islamic countries. Your Majesties, Excellencies, and Highnesses, Israel must realize that its security and safety cannot be achieved through policies of force and aggression, but rather by adhering to international law and respecting the sovereignty of Arab and Islamic countries, and that the sovereignty of these countries cannot be violated under any pretext. These are principles that are not open to compromise. Therefore, the whole world must realize that Israel's policies undermine the prospects for peace in the region and blatantly disregard international laws, established norms, and human values, and that the continuation of such behavior will only bring more tension and instability to the entire region, in a manner that will have serious consequences for international order, for international security. And to the people of Israel, I say that what is happening now undermines the future of peace, threatens your security and the security of all the peoples of the region, and places obstacles in the way of any new peace agreements, and even strains the existing peace agreements with an enemy of the region. And the consequences then will be dire, as the region will return to an atmosphere of conflict, and the historic efforts made to build peace will be lost, along with the gains that have been achieved as a result. And this is a price that we will all pay without exception. So do not allow the efforts of our forefathers for peace to go in vain, for regret at that point will be of no use. Your Majesties, Excellencies, and Highnesses, Egypt reaffirms its complete rejection of targeting civilians and the policy of collective punishment and starvation that Israel is practicing against the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip. This has led to the deaths of tens of thousands of innocent civilian victims over the past 2 years. I must emphasize here that military solutions, undermining mediation efforts, and instead persisting in trying to impose a fait accompli by brute force will not bring security to any party. In this
Are you looking to sell your house as is without paying for costly repairs, inspections?
Egypt will continue its unwavering support for the steadfastness of the Palestinian people on their land and their adherence to their identity and legitimate rights in accordance with international law, and will confront any attempts to undermine these inalienable rights, whether through settlement activities or land annexation, or through displacement or any other forms of uprooting Palestinians from their land under pretexts and justifications that are utterly unacceptable under any circumstances. Egypt once again affirms its complete rejection of any proposals that would lead to the displacement of Palestinians from their land, as such proposals have no legal or moral basis and have only served to expand the scope of the conflict, which would destabilize the entire region. Your Majesties, Excellencies, Highnesses, and honorable guests, it is time to address the Palestinian issue with seriousness and decisiveness, as it is the key to stability in the region. A just and comprehensive solution to the central issue for the Arab and Islamic worlds is based on ending the occupation and establishing an independent Palestinian state along the June 4th, 1967 lines, with East Jerusalem as its capital. In this context, I emphasize Egypt's hope that the two-state solution conference, to be held on September 22nd on the sidelines of the high-level segment of the United Nations General Assembly in New York, will serve as a pivotal milestone on the path to achieving a just and sustainable solution to the Palestinian issue, especially through the recognition of the State of Palestine. I once again call here for the immediate recognition of the State of Palestine by all countries that have not yet taken this step, as this is the only way to preserve the two-state solution. Your Majesties, Excellencies, Highnesses, and honors, we are facing a critical moment that requires our unity to be a fundamental pillar in addressing the challenges facing our region in a way that ensures we do not slip into further chaos and conflict, and prevents the imposition of coup arrangements that contradict our interests and shared vision. Our message today is clear. We will not accept any encroachment on the sovereignty of our countries, nor will we allow efforts for peace to be undermined. We will all stand united in defense of Arab and Islamic rights, foremost among them the right of the Palestinian people to establish their independent state and to live in freedom, dignity, and security. In conclusion, our positions must change the way the enemy views us, so that it sees that any Arab country extends from the Atlantic Ocean to the Gulf, and its umbrella is wide enough to include all Islamic countries and peace-loving nations. And for this perception to change, it requires strong decisions and recommendations, and working to implement them with sincerity and genuine intent, so that every aggressor is deterred and any adventurer thinks twice. In this critical historical moment, it has become imperative for us to establish an Arab-Islamic mechanism for coordination and cooperation that enables all of us to face the major security, political, and economic challenges surrounding us. Establishing such a mechanism now represents the way to strengthen our front and our ability to confront current challenges and to take the necessary steps to protect our security and safeguard our shared interests. And Egypt, as always, extends its hand to every sincere effort that achieves a just peace and supports the security and stability of the Arab and Islamic worlds. Thank you. Peace.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Your Highness Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, Amir of the State of Qatar, Your Majesties, Heads of States, Highnesses, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum. We gather today on a very somber and sorrowful occasion when the brotherly Islamic State of Qatar was treacherously targeted by an aggressor who violates international law without fear of any consequence. Pakistan strongly condemns Israel's reckless and provocative attack on Doha on September 9 that was clearly aimed at sabotaging peace efforts in the Middle East. This was a flagrant violation of the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the State of Qatar. We express our all-out support and solidarity with our Qatari brothers and sisters. Your Highnesses and Excellencies, Israel's assault against Qatar is not an isolated incident. It is yet another manifestation of its declared hegemonic ambitions. My dear brothers and sisters, even in wartime, the role of peace mediators is always deemed inviolable and held sacrosanct. They are the messengers of fragile hope, hope of keeping dialogue alive to advance prospects of peace. One is therefore compelled to question, why then this charade of negotiations? Was the return of hostages ever a priority for a country that has no respect or regard for human life? Excellencies, we deeply appreciate Qatar's sincere and tireless diplomatic efforts, guided by the able leadership of my dear brother, the Amir, His Highness Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani. Qatar has consistently endeavored to bridge divides and promote the noble cause of regional as well as global peace under the most daunting challenges. Ladies and gentlemen, while Gaza bleeds, the heart-wrenching cries of its innocent women and children echo through these halls. We can hear the frail voice of the 10-year-old boy Amir, who walked 12 kilometers barefooted for a few morsels of bread, only to be gunned down by Israeli soldiers along with 64,000 of his fellow countrymen. Israel's genocidal campaign has reduced Gaza to rubble and ruin. The world shall always bear the scars of this unending carnage etched on the very soul of humanity. Injustice has reached an unbearable level. This must stop and stop now. Excellencies, Pakistan reiterates the following urgent and essential steps. Israel must be held accountable for its war crimes against humanity. Creation of an Arab Islamic task force to adopt effective measures to ward off Israeli expansionist designs. We reiterate the OIC's call to suspend Israel's membership of the United Nations. Fourth, member states should actively consider implementing other appropriate measures against Israel. The UN Security Council must urgently demand from Israel under Chapter 7 of the UN Charter an immediate, unconditional and permanent ceasefire, release of hostages and exchange of Palestinian prisoners. Sixth, guaranteed, sustained and secure humanitarian access to all civilians in need and the protection of aid workers, medical teams, journalists and UN personnel. Above all, Excellencies, we must achieve a just, comprehensive and lasting two-state solution with creation of an independent state of Palestine with pre-1967 borders and Al-Quds Al-Sharif as its capital. Majesties, Highnesses, Excellencies, today in this historic gathering, we have affirmed solidarity in our intentions, in our thoughts, and in our words. In unison, we have all condemned Israel's aggression. Let history record this great moment when we, the leaders of the Arab Islamic world, have chosen unity, dignity, and courage over silence and inaction. Otherwise, my brothers and sisters, may I submit in all humility, posterity will never forgive us. وختاما أيها الإخوة والأخوات أود أن أختتم كلمتي هذه بقول الله عز وجل.
Shilaki, Israel. I said Isaiah 38 was in full effect. I meant to say Ezekiel 38 was in full effect. But let me get Isaiah 19 for DJ. Right? Isaiah 19, a message to Egypt. Through the Spirit, they talking about America. Let's get down to what they say. In a cruel Lord. Yeah, it's a bit closer. It's in the first. There it is. Shalaki. Isaiah 19:4. And the Egyptians, meaning America, aka America, through the Spirit, will I give over into the hand of a cruel Lord, and a fierce king shall rule over them, saith the Lord Yahweh of hosts. That's DJ. He trying to get a military or a paramilitary force to surround him, because he know they keep coming up with these draconian laws, steady taking away the freedoms from the people of America. But y'all ain't realizing it. Shalom.